Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another interview from Scale My Cleaning Business. My name is Alex. I'm the co-founder of Scale My Cleaning Business. Today, I have with me Collun Ellis. So we actually connected a while ago, and we were kind of just chatting back and forth. I think I actually saw him in a group. He was kind of stating some of the things he had done to help other people out, be more successful, and that got me into talking with him. And yeah, he's been able to achieve just very awesome success in his cleaning business. And I wanted to pretty much just have an interview to help you guys dive deep and really just unlock and share some things that I think could really help a lot of you, whether you're here watching on YouTube or Facebook group, whatever it is. I just wanted to have you on here. So thank you so much for joining, Collun. And
Yeah,
if you
man.
don't mind, just give us a quick introduction about yourself, if you don't mind.
Oh, shoot. Well, I'm Collun. I'm 5'10", 212 pounds. I like Oreos.
Yeah.
Uh, so I own a carpet cleaning and janitorial business. I'm 37 years old. I'll be 38 in November. Uh, I haven't been in the business for too long compared to a lot of guys or gals, I should say, too. A lot of people. I started the business September 15th of 17, so almost exactly 4 years ago. Uh, I kind of where it started for me was I had in my adult career, I tried some college at 22, 23 years old, struggled with school, like just couldn't pay attention, didn't like it. I essentially dropped out of college after a year and a half. And I got into sales and some management jobs and did pretty well. So sales is kind of where I found my niche. And then after a couple of years, I found myself in a situation where I'd taken a job and in that particular environment, I sucked at it. And I was like, and essentially they put me on a 90-day probation to fire me. And I went, oh no, what am I going to do?
What job was this, you said?
So I sold cars before and did really well, but I was actually selling for a Bridgestone dealer. It's tire, I was selling tires. And so I was selling commercial tires, like I went out and I did outside sales. So like I would go out and knock on businesses' doors and people who had like big semi truck fleets, or even like big heavy equipment like big dozers and that kind of stuff. And so in that environment, though, for some reason I had done great in sales jobs before that. And after about a year and a half, they were like, Collun, we like you, but you suck at this job. And I went, I'm surprised we didn't have this conversation 6 months ago. So they put me on a 90-day probation. They said, look, we'd like to keep you. We'll put you up front with the service guys. We'll put you in the back with the technicians. This sales position just isn't for you. And I was like, well, it was kind of defeating. It was discouraging, kind of, because I had done so well the 10 years prior in sales. And to fail essentially to a point where they're going to fire me was super discouraging. Not going to lie. And so I went home and I talked to my wife about it. And I said, no, I don't want any of those other positions. This is an opportunity for me to go start my own business. And so I was vaguely familiar with the cleaning business because my dad owned a carpet cleaning business, and I have two uncles, one in Colorado, one in Utah, who also own carpet cleaning businesses. And I said, all right, I'm gonna do this. And so my wife goes, well, what if it doesn't work out? And there's always that safety net of, well, I can go find another job. But I told her, I said, babe, look, it can't fail because it can't not fail. I mean, it can't not work. It has to. I'm not going back to another job. I'm not going back to someone signing my paycheck for me. So I was like, I knew from the sales experience that activity generates revenue. So the more doors I knock on, the more people I talk to, the more realtors, the more office managers I talk to, by attrition, I'm going to find jobs. And sure enough, within 90 days, I had replaced my income. So in that 90-day probation, working nights and weekends, when I got to the end of that 90-day probation, I left, and there wasn't a huge gap of income in starting a business. And so it forced me to be, I use the term successful very loosely in this context, but it forced me to survive, because if I have a wife and three kids, and they weren't going to eat if I wasn't bringing money in. So it got me out of my comfort zone and made it happen, man. So.
Wow. That's amazing. So one thing I want to ask you about, because one thing I see a lot in this industry And it's not even just cleaning, it's in starting a business in general.
Yeah.
It's I see a lot of the time where it's hard for people to, and I was, I was working a full-time job as well before I started,
Yep.
Everything. And it's that comfortability, like walking away from that and going all in and having your back against the wall is incredibly scary. But
Sure.
I think it holds, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like it holds a lot of people back. But that very thing is a lot of the time the motivation and the thing that they need to be able to make it work.
Absolutely.
So, and from what you're saying, you were able to do that.
Yeah.
Is there something that you would say to people right now that are working a job as well as trying to make it work with the cleaning business or doing other things and they're trying to replace their income?
So I think one thing is, I know it's so cliche to say, but what are your goals? And I'm not saying like, oh, what do you want to do in 5 years? No, what do you want to do in 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days? Like 5 years is always like, okay, cool. In 5 years, I'm going to be doing this, that. But like, I'm looking back 4 years from now or 4 years ago when I started. And for me, it was survival. It was like, I have to do this in the next 30 days. Otherwise my mortgage isn't being paid. And I think one thing too is me taking that leap of not looking for another job where I could have. So I was making about 1,000 a week, about 4,000 a month. In addition to, they paid for my company truck for me, and they paid for my cell phone. So I was making decent money, not great money as a 30-year-old or 33-year-old or whatever. But I was comfortable. And but if I had taken those other jobs, I would have never started my own business. I think one thing too, people lollygag too long in a full-time job and don't take the leap, or don't work hard enough on nights and weekends to make that transition smoother. I don't think it's smart to quit your job and start your own business. I don't think that. I was being fired, so it kind of forced me to do it. And I
got laid off, so I know how it feels.
So is that the right way? Maybe not, but it worked. One of the greatest books that I really like, and I would highly suggest for anybody, is The Millionaire Next Door. And then the sequel to that, by the same author, is The Millionaire Mind. Now I'm not a millionaire yet, but give me a couple more weeks.
That's
and,
awesome.
But anyway, one things he talks about in there is those trying times like that add titanium to your integrity and your resolve to be successful. Because times are tough, you're forced to be successful. And that's what and it rang so true to me that 4 years ago, I was sleeping 4 hours a night. I was working till 11 o'clock at night doing jobs. I was up at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, like figuring out where I'm going to find jobs outside of my full-time job. Because I didn't mix the jobs. I didn't take sales calls on my personal business during the day. I set up a whole separate phone number. And so I would answer phone calls and emails for my business during my half-hour, 1-hour lunch break. But I made sure that those last 90 days at my day job, I gave them my full honest effort, and I didn't mix the two. But I think one thing people do is they lollygag too long, and they don't get serious about their business. And they treat it as a hobby, and they don't build the business quick enough and big enough to make that transition to full-time from their day job.
Got it. So what were kind of the steps that you took to start getting accounts, start getting everything up and running, get your LLC? Like, how were you able to do all that within such a short time frame? And how did you organize that?
So, like I said, I was super, super diligent and strategic in the time that I had. So, for instance, early mornings, I was looking on YouTubes and podcasts, and then at night, and as I was doing my night job, I'd throw some headphones in and listen to all the business stuff I could think of, because I don't have a formal education, so I had to informally educate myself on business and strategy. So that came from, there's a couple YouTube channels that I follow, a couple books that I've listened to several times. And so, and it's hard to say like one thing that made it successful, but the biggest thing was having a short-term view and of that 30, 60, 90 days, knowing that, okay, I have to make a decision here quick. And what really set it up for me was I went on a fishing trip with two of my brother-in-laws, and I was talking to them about, I'm getting fired and what should I do? Should I take this other position? My brother goes, look, man, my brother-in-law, he goes, you've been talking about this for 2 years, 3 years now, of this idea and this wish and this dream. He just freaking called me out. And he's like,
That's
a year from now, you're going to look back on this and say, I could have started my own business, or you can say, I did start my own business. And I went, mother effer, you're freaking right. I'm doing it. So I went home and I said, babe, I'm starting a business.
Yeah, that's a great brother-in-law you got there. Yeah,
oh,
that's awesome.
And so anyway, he freaking called me out, and like, he was one of my best friends. And then I married his sister. And then, so we've been friends for a long time, but
wow.
Anyway, so yeah, this kind of that looking back 2 and 3 years before that, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I was lollygagging. I was, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start my own business. I never steps to do it. So anyway.
Yeah, there's really something to be said about just going all in, because running a business is not easy, especially a cleaning business. And I'm sure you can agree. Like, there's a lot of different parts. Like, there's getting equipment, there's getting insured and certified, there's literally hiring, which is what a lot of people are struggling with. There's getting accounts, which is what we mostly focus on. And, we bring on coaches to help with other stuff. But it's like, the more I learn about this industry, I'm just like, the model is great. Like, I think it's a great business, but it doesn't mean that it's easy or simple.
Correct.
And I think, a lot of the things that we saw with a lot of the people, we've literally talked to like hundreds of these cleaning owners, and I think there's something like, I believe there's about 1 million cleaning businesses in the US.
Oh, ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. So there's a lot of people that start a cleaning business, but a lot of it, and this is something we've always tried to like drain into, or really just ingrain into people, is just the mindset of going all in and like really just making it work.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we can't help someone who's not committed to themselves.
Yep.
And it's making that decision. Like I admire that. Like, I think that's amazing that you just like, yeah, maybe you were, doing different things for a while, but I think a lot of people were in that position before they became successful. But you did, it became to a point where you're just like, that's it.
Yeah.
To get out of that mindset, that just starts everything. And then you just realize, like, that's how you can make it work. So,
and here's an interesting thought too, is, I became good friends with a guy he's a local restaurant owner here. I'm in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I asked him, I said, hey man, I said, where do you get your business cards, your pamphlets? Cause I'm looking at starting my own business. And he goes, well, all right, cool. And he showed me, told me where he was getting them. And he goes, well, who else are you talking to about starting your own business? I said, well, so to go back to my brother-in-law, love him to death. I said, oh, my brother-in-law, he has a business degree. And my other brother-in-law is a big time business banker. He goes, hold on, stop right there. Stop. I said, oh, what's up? He goes, don't talk to them. I was like, why? They got some good stuff. And he goes, no, they're not entrepreneurs. They're business guys. They're corporate business people. He's like, they've never started their own business. They've never ate from a paycheck that they earned from start to finish. They work for somebody. It's a total different mindset when you have that level of risk of starting your own business. And I was like, holy crap. Okay. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And even the education stuff, man, we're gonna have to talk after, because like, oh my God, like I literally went through like so many podcasts and like books and stuff. And like, I think you can't really underestimate education.
No.
Followed by, and the key part is also followed by like massive action. Because you can even get stuck with like 1 million podcasts and not do anything, or
Correct.
1 million books and not do anything about it. But if you get the knowledge that you need from other people that have been successful and have started businesses, like you said, and you apply and take the steps to do those things and not be afraid of failing, like you will be successful at some point.
Yep.
Like there's like no doubt about it, you know? So like
And
I
that
literally, yeah.
that failure part's important too. Like there's lots of books that talk about failing forward and different subjects like that, but it's you have to I took it the mindset that I have to get 9 no's to get that 10th person to say yes. So the more people I talk to, the more no's I get, which therefore the more yeses I get. And so you have to understand, you have to just have faith in that process and not get emotional about it. So anyway, that's a whole nother subject. But
yeah, no, absolutely. Like we even tell, you know, the people we work with, we say, you're going to get these opportunities, but you might not even work with them until, you know, a month from now. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to be with the process of following up. You have to be with the process of creating these relationships, because that is what is going to build momentum as well as your skills for improving your, like, I think it's awesome that you had like, one thing I wanted to hit on as well. There's so many good points you hit on, by the way, with like your story. And I'm trying to like help people kind of understand. So one thing you said is like even though you know this position didn't work out, you still were able to learn this skill set of sales, and you were able to translate that into this business. And I think there are certain skills that allow you to ascend certain levels. So it's like when you start out, it's like, hey, like if you're really good at like sales and like organization and these different things, you're going to get to level 1. And then if you're really good at like building teams, you're really good at like all, like there's certain skill sets that come along with it. But sales is like, if anyone has any doubts about a skill to learn, like sales, no matter what you do, relationships, business, anything, like start picking up a book on sales and start practicing sales. I don't know if you would agree with that, but
100%.
It's so important.
And I think too, people get too caught up in the process of sales too, and they convolute it. They say, oh, well, to be a good salesman, I have to go all the way from A to Z, and all 26 steps have to be in place, have to be perfect at all of them. No, you don't. What you have to do is you have to build that relationship with the customer. So for instance, when I started out, I was a single owner operator, all by myself, no employees. I literally worked by myself. And now I had guys that could call in for big jobs if I needed to. But I stopped into this seasonal hotel that's open for like 4 months out of the season up here in Alaska. Very, very short season for them. And I happened to be driving by one day, and I saw some of their employees out about 3 weeks before they opened up for the season. And I said, dude, I've got to stop and at least drop a card off, because if I don't, I'm going to regret it, because it was 100 miles out of town from where I live. And I'm like, dude, I have to take the 5 minutes to stop and drop a card off. So I stopped in, and I saw one of the workers, and I said, hey, I'm looking for the maintenance manager. I wasn't BSing. I didn't say I had an appointment. A lot of sales guys are, oh, I'm in the area, so I had an appointment with the manager. No, you didn't. Shut up. So I'm just driving
all the tricks and everything.
Yeah. So, but I'm just up front. Hey, I'm driving by. I'm looking for the manager for just like 2 minutes. And he's like, oh, Corey? And I said, yeah, him. So now I got his name, which was kind of a tricky way of getting it, I guess. But anyway, so I walk in and I said, hey, I'm looking for Corey. And he goes, oh, I'm right here. And so I gave him my card, and I said, hey, look, I'm just driving by. I just want, if there's ever an opportunity to put a quote in, here's my card. And he's like, well, how many people you got work for you? So, well, it's just me. He goes, this is a huge facility. We're talking like not hundreds of thousands, but over 100,000 square feet of property.
Wow.
6 or 8 big buildings. And he goes, but it's just you? I said, yeah. I said, but what I can guarantee you is I'm not going to take the job if I don't think I can finish it. He goes, okay. I said, here, I'll even go this far. You give me one building in the next week. We're going to clean this for you. I'll come out and do it myself. If you're not happy with it for whatever reason, I'll drive away and we're still friends. But if you like it, I'm going to ask you to continue and get the rest of the work from you. He's like, all right. So he's like, you literally have nothing to lose except clean carpet. I'm going to take it away at least. And so he's like, all right. So I come out there, he throws one of the dirtiest buildings to me, which was a restaurant, because restaurant floors get tore up.
Yeah.
And Got in there, cleaned it up right, made it look pretty. He went and got the general manager. General manager came back, and both of them were super happy with it. And I'm not saying this to like be arrogant or gloat or anything, but it's just that process of like, be confident in what you're doing and give them the assurance that they're not tied into anything up front. Like, I'm going to walk away and we're still friends. And he was like, all right. So that one job in particular landed me thousands of dollars in work. And
Wow.
and it took us, so when we went back because I went and did the restaurant once, and then he scheduled me to come back, and I brought 4 other guys with me for 2 days, and we knocked out $15,000 in work in 2.5 days, and they were stoked, and we set it up for annual cleaning.
I
So
love that.
anyway, it was one, and that's the sales part. I didn't go in with all these flashy tips and tricks and gizmos and gadgets. I said, hey, if I can ever put a quote in, here's my card. All right. And he was like, okay. And
In that voice, in that exact voice.
yeah, I'm not even joking. He was like, he's like, we've had teams come before and not get this done right. I said, well, that's the difference in what we do. I said, again, I'm going to clean half of it. If you're not happy with it, I walk away. We're still friends. And so I finished half of it. I said, all right, I'll pack up if you want me to keep going. And he's like, keep going. I got it. So
Like, I think one thing you did, there's a couple of things I want to dive deep into what you did. So I think one thing that you did that a lot of people make mistakes on is when you're starting out, it's like you need clients, right? Like, you're desperate, you need clients, you need money. It's like, maybe you have kids, like in your case, you had to get the mortgage and all this other stuff.
yeah,
But you never want to appear that way. It's all perspective. So leading with the with the relationship and the value, like you did, in like a way that's conversational, not like spammy or salesy, because people pick up on that. Like, especially in a day and age where you have, the internet and, flyers and all this other stuff, it's very easy to be seen as like, oh, he just wants my money. But if you can break that barrier and show that you actually give a crap, to be honest, and also not being afraid to walk away, if they're not happy, or even giving some type of guarantee, just getting your foot in the door. And that's honestly, like, that's all it took for you to get started, was just, leading that way and being confident in your services, even if you haven't done it yet, but it's just like, I'm confident in myself. I know that I can do a good job. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to, you give me a little bit and I'm going to do a really good job. And, if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, this way, and it's just completely honest. Like, that's such an honest conversation to have.
mm-hmm.
I think that's really cool the way you did that.
Because
is that how you? Oh, good. Sorry.
I say people don't like being sold, but they like to buy. That's one thing I learned selling cars. Is they see a lot shark. They call it a lot shark coming all the way from across the parking lot when a family's there looking for a vehicle. They're just strolling through the lot. They see that salesman bebopping over there and, hey, let's put you in this shiny thing. That car's gonna look good on you. That's a bunch of crap. It's like, hey, here's my card. If I can help you, cool. And so people don't like being sold, but they like to buy. Meaning they're there to buy a car. They're there to hire you as a cleaning service. They're there to hire you as for whatever reason. Like, they need the service. So don't oversell them. Just, hey, this is what we do. You want it or not? So anyway,
it's so simple too. Like, there's no crazy sales trick.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like you're pretending like you're talking to a friend or just meeting, a friend for the first time. It's not like this pitch or, even for us, like we have conversations, like we don't, cause like there's just so many people out there that, I don't know, they try to pitch all the time with everything.
Yep.
Rather than just like having a conversation. Hey, if I can help you, like the way you put it was like beautiful. Like, literally, if I can help you, great. Let's talk. Let's set something up.
Yeah.
And that actually makes me want to like buy even more by you being like that. I'm like, damn, like this guy actually like.
That's what I'm saying.
He's
People
good.
like sold. So.
Yeah. So from there, like, what was that like? So did you continue to walk through to different properties, or did you start calling people? Like, how did you start to build that up?
In regards to that
Accounts.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, I use the same approach. So what I would do is I'm very active on Facebook. Facebook has been very good to me. And so like, for instance, if people like say, hey, I'm looking for a cleaning service. Like we don't do a lot of janitorial. Most of my business is actually carpet cleaning. So I've coupled with and teamed up with a few other cleaning businesses for like residential stuff. There's one massive contract that we take care of, and that's where I kind of gain the janitorial experience and numbers and stuff from. Um, but even like if people will message or what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, if people on those Facebook threads will say, I'm looking for a carpet cleaner in Fairbanks, Alaska, yada, yada, yada. And people will tag my business or tag me, or what they'll do is they'll tag 3 or 4 other businesses also. And I'm friends with all of them too. I've taken the time to call them and say, hey, look, if we're competitors, but if there's anything I can help you with, let me know. And some of the big guys here in town have actually called me to help out on jobs, and so we've become allies, if you will, instead of enemies. And one guy actually let me borrow some equipment when some of my equipment broke down. He let me borrow it for free, and so I told him, I said, look, man, you ever need anything, you let me know. But anyway, so I'm saying is on those Facebook posts, I'll say, hey, look, company A, B, and C are great options if they're better fit, but we'd love to take care of you too. And so it's just one of those deals. It's like you don't want to be too pushy. Oh, call us because we're the best. How do you know we're the best? Maybe they're looking for the cheapest. I'm not the cheapest. Maybe looking for the most expensive. Maybe I'm not the most expensive. And so if we're the right fit, give us a call. So I'm
really actually curious. So when one thing I hear a lot in the industry is, and I would say it's more of a problem in certain areas than others, especially in like big cities where there's a lot of other cleaners.
Sure.
What is, how do you approach when you are sending out your quote and they're just kind of lowballing you, and maybe, and then maybe it's even a good contract opportunity.
Sure.
And like, how do you kind of handle people that are kind of comparing a lot of prices and looking for the best price?
So there's 2 ways I do that. The first way I say is I say, hey, look, we offer a 5-step carpet cleaning process. Okay, a full service. We do offer a lesser service for a lesser price if that's what you're looking for. But if you want the top quality, there's 2 different qualities that we provide: quality A and quality B. I mean, I could get into the details of that, but which package would you like? Or, man, that price was really high. Okay, maybe we don't do the whole house. Maybe you just do that one bedroom that's your guest bedroom. Let's not do that one. So I'm not bringing my price down, but I'm bringing the scale of the job down. And so that way my revenue per hour is still the same. So the customer's paying less, but we're providing not less service, but we're providing less air clean. And so that way they save a couple bucks there. And the other way too is to hold that price when I'm not, because I don't like budgeting on price, because what I tell the customers, I say, hey, look, the reason you called us is because your friend referred us to you. Or the reason you call us is because you saw our ratings on Facebook or Google. And we don't get those ratings on Facebook or Google by giving subpar service. And to be able to give that service, to have the right insurance, the right equipment, and properly trained technicians, it costs money. Again, if you're not happy with it at the end, you either tell us and we'll figure it out. But if you're happy with it, tell your friends. So I kind of put it back on the reviews of like, the reason you called us is because your friend trusted us. And we're going to give you the same service and the same price we gave them.
Got it. So it seems like you had a lot of people that were calling you maybe from Google or Facebook.
Sure.
I have that correct. Got it. So It was kind of coming from someone else, or just, they maybe just see your profile or something first before they called you.
My big commercial accounts though are always face-to-face knocking on the door. My big hotels, I stop by, and I might stop by once a quarter for 2 years. Mm-hmm. In fact, here's the trick too is and this is a straight up salesman trick, but it's not sleazy in any way. I go and buy 3 or 4 packs of Oreos and a gallon of milk with some cups. I drop them off at one of these realtor offices. And I did that for probably once a quarter for a whole year. So 4 times I stopped by, and I became the Oreo guy. And I drop off carpet cleaning cards and all this stuff. And so they knew that, oh shoot, it's already been 3 months since you stopped by. Yeah, you know where we're at. Here's my cards. And so slowly we got more and more business from that, and it cost me like less than $15. And in Oreos and milk, everybody brings donuts and cookies. Hardly anybody brings milk with cookies and donuts. As stupid as that sounds,
it's either the Oreo guy or the milkman. It was like a 50-50 shot.
So anyway, as stupid as that sounds, like I've had customers say that, like, look, man, we've had sales guys come in and bring cookies and donuts, but nobody brings donuts or nobody brings milk with it. So anyway, that's an extra $350.
That's awesome.
Cost that's super easy.
Yeah, I think a good point that you kind of hit on too is like always trying to, like, there's a million cleaning business. Like we said this in the beginning, like there's like a million cleaning businesses like out there. Yeah. So being able to have these relationships and form these relationships and also be different and on like how you start the relationship is, I think that's like super, super important. I think it's even becoming more important as this industry continues to grow. So being able to, maybe knowing what your ideal client is and, having different platforms of reaching out to them, starting conversations. If you're just starting out, pounding the pavement, like I think that's a great way to, not just secure deals, but also make sure that you have the relationship first so that they turn into long-term prospects and clients. Yeah, I think that's amazing. So actually a couple of things I wanted to hit on real quick. So since you started, it looks like you've been pretty much able to consistently grow, almost pretty much double every year, if I have that correctly. So
just about.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember we were kind of going back and forth about that. Do you mind kind of just breaking that apart? And, what do you think really helped you? Like maybe if you could name 1 or 2 things that really helped you be able to attain that type of growth.
Sure. So this is going to go back to, I remember when I was selling cars. Our manager sat us down one day and he goes, all right, how much money are you going to make this month? Or what's your goal for this month? I said, well, I want to sell 8 cars. Okay. To sell 8 cars, how many people do you have to talk to? How many test drives do you have to do? How many of these KOIs or key operating indicators he was getting at? And I said, well, it's about this, it's about that. He goes, no. He goes, do you get, for every 4 people that come in, he goes,
I think I lost you for a second. Let's see.
I lose you?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Now.
You still there?
Yeah. Can you? Yeah, if you could just repeat that. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
So he was making it very clear to us. Like that's one thing I really respected about the owner of that dealership was he was a salesman when he was younger. So he didn't just come in and be like, oh, I'm the owner now, go sell cars. He's like, no. Here's how you do it. For every time someone comes in, for every 4 people that come in, 2, you're able to get into or let's say 6. Every 6 people, 3 of them I was able to get into a test drive. 2 of them and 1 of them actually purchased. And so it was this sales funnel, if you will. It's about this many, about that many. He goes, no. What's the exact number? I said, oh, and he freaking called me out in front of everybody. And I'm like, freak, man. Okay, well, if I want to sell 8 cars, I need to get 16 people, or what was it? Yeah, whatever. I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head now, but 16 people to the table. That means I have to do 4 times that to get into a test drive. And then 2 times that many people I have to talk to. Well, shoot, man, I need to talk to 20, almost 30 people to sell 8 cars. And so that's the sales funnel and the sales process that we learned selling cars. And so I took that exact same thing to knocking doors. I said, okay, I'm going to park my car here in this part of town, and I'm going to knock on 30 doors today. And I'm not going to stop unless I've done either 30 doors or I have 3 quotes in today. And one thing that it's hard about being a single owner operator is no one's telling you when to be to work. Like I could just sit at home, wait for the phone to ring, but the phone's not going to ring if you're not out there. So I'm either cleaning carpet and doing jobs, or I'm still working and going finding jobs. And so not many, I think that's where a lot of people fail in the cleaning business, is they treat it like a hobby, not a business. And so, so did that answer your question?
Yeah, that definitely answered my question. And
Okay.
yeah, and it's almost like this is like the engine. And I want anyone watching this to kind of realize this, like the getting the accounts, getting in front of people, knowing your numbers, knowing, hey, if I send out this many emails, if I do this many cold calls, if I
Yep.
stop at this many businesses, or if I can automate and, you know, do multiple at the same time, even better.
Yeah.
That ultimately is going to allow me to have more conversations, and more conversations, that means more sales, and more sales means I have more jobs. More jobs means I can
Yep.
pay my staff. I can continue to grow my business. And
Yeah.
I think the sooner people, you know, it's almost like 80-20, like, yeah, like hiring and fulfillment is, of course, you want to, you know, do a good job and all that. But I mean, if you don't
Sure.
have any jobs, then it's like, yeah, what is getting a scrubber? Like, what is that going to do? Like, you know, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen people starting out, they get all these things of equipment, and they're like, oh, wow, like now I owe all this, you know, stuff for equipment, but I don't have any jobs. But
Yeah. So,
yeah,
so let me
get the
give,
money first. Like, you know, I feel like,
so let me give the 90-second rundown of how it worked financially for me. Okay. So I, I was really like, I'm a huge fan of Dave Ramsey. And so I was like, okay, how can I do this debt free? How can I start a business and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, frick, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I broke down a little bit. I pulled $4,000 out of my car, I refinanced it for $4,000. I had some really, really nice mountain bikes. It's one of my hobbies. And so I sold my mountain bike. So now I had about $6,000 in cash. And I looked up, I found a company out of Seattle where I could order essentially a starter kit as a professional carpet cleaner. And it cost me about $6,500 shipped. And I called up about 5 or 10 family and friends, and I said, all right, here's the deal. I'm starting a cleaning business. I need some experience. Can I come clean your carpet? And they're like, yeah. So now I know how to use the equipment. I've got the sales background. Okay, now it's time to go be an adult and actually make this a business. And so, so that was September of 17. I was laid off at the very end of November of 17, and then so in those few months, I was able to replace my income of $4,000 a month, and then and then and then all of 2018 as a single owner operator, all by myself. My expenses were super low because I was working with an old Astro van that I cleaned up, made look decent, and then I just operated out of my living room. So I live in a cold climate, so I had to bring all my freezable equipment into my living room every night because I didn't have a garage.
oh my
And I
God.
and so it was super annoying. And then I had to put it all back in the van the next morning. And I even did that when I didn't have jobs, so that when I went to a commercial hotel or something and they wanted a demo, I could do a demo on the spot. And so taking those steps to do that, I did about 75,000 in total revenue that first year of 2018. 2019, I did 175,000 with the same equipment. I didn't get more equipment. So I was able to pay that equipment off super quick within a couple months. And then, so my gross income was over $100,000 my first full year, or sorry, second full year in business. And then 2019, 2019 was 175. And then 2020 dipped a bit because COVID kind of hit us, and it was kind of weird because I turned off all my marketing and just kind of let the calls come in. And I still did about 150. It was 150, just barely over 155,000. So that was 2020. And then in 2021, we started out the year really well. And again, keeping that consistent hustle of, even when I was busy, I would still stop at realtor's office in between jobs. I'd say, hey, I got 5 minutes. I'm gonna stop, drop off some cards, or taking every minute or so I could of my 8 or 9, 10-hour day, and still like keep my like this is my work shirt. Like I just like I always make sure my shirts look good, and I just wear jeans. See.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Are
just
those
kind
designer?
of
Wow.
business casuals, keep it. What's that?
Are those designer? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, they're designer fees. I bought fire. Anyway, I by design I wore them. Anyway, um, so so I just try to always stay professional, keep my van looking clean. Like, there were opportunities in between jobs. I could go and give a presentation to like a realty office, like during a realty meeting. There are 20 realtors, and hey, I'm Collun. Here's my card. We clean carpet. It's simple. And they're like, and so you get into all the minutia of the details. But anyway, so uh, so now we're in 2021, and at the end of August, we broke 180,000. And
Wow.
so revenues, again, the activity generates revenue, and always make sure that you're doing some type of sales activity, even when you're busy. And so that's the hard part. That's the hard part of treating it like a hobby versus like a business. So anyway, so there's
Wow.
some real actual numbers. And now there are a lot of guys. I'm friends with a lot of the other guys in the business who are doing 500,000 and 800,000 and close to $1 million in business. But I run a very, very tight, efficient crew. There was one guy I listened to about 2 years ago. He was doing $500,000 in business. And I thought that was amazing. I thought it was so cool, but then realized he had 15 employees. I'm like, dude, you have 15 people making 15 grand? Like, no way, not doing it right. And so you got to keep those profit margins high too as you grow. So
Absolutely. As you continue to grow, as you continue to grow your profits and revenue, what was maybe one or two things that you invested back into that was able to ultimately allow you to grow and continue to scale?
uh one thing that I did full time right off the bat was I hired an accountant. I was like, I'm great at bringing the money in. I'm terrible at managing it. I know that. And so my accountant's like, hey, Collun, back off on this. You're good here. You're good there. And then one thing that I made sure to do is I took that $4,000 loan out to begin with, paid it off super quick within just a couple months. And then I did not take on any business loans until about 2 months ago when I bought a brand new van and a brand new carpet cleaning setup. Even then I still bought it used, and it was about 40,000. But I made sure that monthly loan was less than 5% of my revenue, my monthly revenue for the last 6 months. And so, and I got my accountant's blessing, and I got my wife's blessing, and it wasn't just a whimsical purchase. It was very strategic and thought out, and I'll have that van paid off pretty quick still. But I think too many people go out and they get this $100,000 van and $50,000 in tools before they make $10. It's like, bro, you realize now your payments are $1,500 a month. You have, and that $1,500 a month, you have to make 3 times that for that to be profitable almost. And at the very least, you now have to make $1,500 a month to be broke, to be at zero. And so too many people get the equipment first and then try to find the jobs. Whereas the only reason I bought that van was because I had so much work coming in, I couldn't keep up. And so, for instance, even with a portable setup that was all paid for in February this last year, normally when it's slow, I did over $20,000 in revenue by myself. And so I said, with zero business debt, very minimal personal debt, I can take on a $900 a month payment on a van. So
Smart.
again, I think again, it's personal preference. I know Dave Ramsey wouldn't be happy about even a loan to begin with.
Yeah,
but
he's interesting. I don't know what your opinion is of him, but I think he's amazing. Like, I think he gives amazing advice. But it's only like to a certain point. Like, I think he kind of speaks to the general population.
Yeah.
But when you're starting a business and all this other stuff, there's a different way to use credit. There's a different way to use loans and leverage.
Sure.
And these are all things I'm even learning. Like, I just went to this event. They were teaching about credit cards and, good debt versus bad debt, all this other stuff, leverage. And
Sure.
But I think, that mindset, the priority of having the jobs first and then having those things after and having what's primary and what's secondary and having a clear view of that is super, super important. Cause I think, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of cleaning owners that they're excited, they're ready to get started. They
Yep.
want to be a business owner, and then they just buy all this like stuff.
Correct.
Like they'll buy like 100,000 mailers, or they'll
Yeah.
buy, like equipment. Yeah, they'll like basically what is this saying? It's like something before the horse. Do you know
Or
what I'm
the cart
talking about?
before the horse.
What is it?
And
What'd
so
you say?
yeah, people put the cart before the horse.
The
The
car.
horse.
I think you said the carpet for a second because you're
Oh no,
cutting out. I was
the
like, is that
cart.
your slogan?
And so no. So yeah, putting the cart before the horse. The analogy there is that so the horse is the business. The horse is what's pulling the cart. If you try to put the cart in front of it, it's not going to do any good. So anyway,
Yeah, absolutely.
horse is the revenue. The revenue is what's pulling the horse. So not the business, but the revenue.
That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so I think you hit up on some good things right there. The other thing I think that's really important is it looks like you were able to get about a 80% retention rate. Um, so your clients were pretty much able to stick with you. And I'm assuming, would it be right in assuming that that was because of the quality that you're providing, or what was the reason for that, would you say?
Yeah, well, it's those relationships. I've had there are a lot of other carpet cleaners out there. Okay, there are a lot of other cleaners out there. But I've had realtors and customers tell me they like, look, we enjoy doing business with you, with Collun, with Premier Carpet Cleaners, with your technicians, because it's the quality and it's. I know it sounds so weird to say, but it's the experience that we're selling. Like, this is a sales game. We just happen to offer cleaning services. Okay. And so, and then to kind of piggyback off that same thought, when I first started, one of the greatest pieces of advice that I got was set your prices at the top of the market. So for example, I called around to other carpet cleaners here in my area, and they're at 35, 40, 45 cents a square foot. And I said, screw that. I'm going 50 cents a square foot. So I went 50 cents a square foot, which is more than almost everybody. And about 6 months in, I said, I'm going to 60 cents a square foot. And so then I'm almost double the price of other cleaning services in my area. And I was like, and that does two things. It does two things. So you're talking, and this is going to come back to customer retention. When a cleaning company starts out and they say, okay, I got to start super cheap so I can get jobs. Well, when you do that, you're only making $15 an hour. At $15 an hour, go work for somebody else, man. It's like, no, a cleaning business needs to generate at least $50 an hour in revenue as a single owner operator. When you start hiring employees, you need to be at about 75 to 100 an hour so that you can pay your employees well. And so when you start out low and then you raise your prices 6 months later, you now have negated that entire customer base that you've started with, because now you have to go after a new customer base, because when you raise your price, you're going to lose half your customers. So when I started high. I got the right customers to begin with, and that's why we've been able to keep them. Because as I've grown and as I've brought employees on, I haven't had to change my price because we already charge quite a bit. And so we didn't have to change the business model as we continued to grow. And so that's one way that we've been able to retain our customers, is continuing to give great service. Even when I hire technicians and go through the training process, it costs me a lot of money. I don't have to raise my price because we're still profitable and I can still pay well.
Do you think if any of your current clients were ever comparing other options, do you think they would feel guilty if they pay less for a service? Like they would be getting a lot less quality, and it would be they'd be like not
I
getting
think
what
so.
they want. Yeah. Okay.
But still though, I always make sure that like I'm not emotional about it. If I have a friend or well, all my family stays with me because I give them freaking good deals. But but if I have close friends, they're like, look, man, it was just an apartment I had. It wasn't my house. I picked one of the other cheaper cleaners. I'm like, cool, that's totally fine with that, because they understand the difference. Now, if but again, I'm like, hey man, if we're not the right fit, we're not the right fit. Like, I don't get emotional about it. And I don't get personal. I don't make it like, if friends are like, oh, I'm so sorry, I went with somebody else. Okay, cool. Like, we were friends before this. Let's stay friends after this. And so I say, you know where we're at. If you want what we provide, you know where we're at. And so I never give people the guilt trip of like, oh, well, I thought you were a good customer. And I thought, well, if we're not the right fit, we're not the right fit. I want you to be excited about every time you use our service.
Gotcha. Yeah, the relationship is always first, right? Like when you have, whether you work with them or not, because that's something that is valuable, right?
Yeah.
You can agree. Yeah. Having that relationship is so valuable. Yeah, retention is huge because, this is, you're in a cash flow business, this cleaning industry, like it's a cash flow business. Even if you sign like a $500 a month deal, like a small one,
Yep.
and but you retain that client for 3 years. What is that?
It's
Yeah,
18,000.
that's like 18,000. I can't do math right now.
Well, 6,000.
So, oh yeah, 6,000 times 3. That makes sense. So it's like it's like 18,000 if you don't follow up with that lead, or
Exactly.
if you don't do these things. It's like that opportunity cost is huge.
And what's your cost of acquisition is one thing that's important too. Because if it costs me $5 or $10 to get a customer, that means that's $5 or $10 each time. That's how much I have to pay in marketing, or equate that $5 or $10 for my own time. You either pay in marketing and pay someone to do it, or you're out doing it yourself, and that time is still worth money. So if it costs you, I don't know what, 10, 15, $20 to acquire a customer, you might as well retain them, because it's going to cost you that same amount to get the next customer to fill that same spot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you said, did you do other types of marketing? Just curious. I mean, I know you said you did a lot of like, with the Facebook groups and all that.
I'm not a marketing guru by any means. I just try to make sure that like, I try to make my own videos on like my own Facebook page. And I've paid for some videos that have done really well, but people like to see that like we're real people. Like we live here locally. We're down in the trenches in your neighborhood. And like, that's where like people are like, oh, we like to, I know, I'm not sure how it is in other markets, but here in Alaska, it's people really like to see local businesses. And so when they see my face on videos and they see, but I have to find that balance of like not making the business about Collun, but about the brand of Premier Carpet Cleaners. And so that's one thing that's worked for me.
Awesome. So yeah, another thing I definitely wanted to hit on this interview before we start asking some questions was, yeah, so we pretty much just to kind of backtrack. So we hit on, how you were able to grow. What was your story? We also went into, your retention, how you also have really good cash flow by focusing on the right things. And the other part of this is your profit margin. So I was actually really amazed, when talking to you, Collun, that you said you were around a 45% profit margin, which is absolutely insane. Like, I don't think I've actually talked to someone with a profit margin like that. So do you mind just kind of breaking that down and how you were able to kind of achieve that?
Yeah. So first of all, to keep your profit margins high, you got to mitigate that debt. Okay. I'm gonna harp on that again. Keeping, like I said, don't go finance a bunch of tools. I actually don't have any credit cards myself. I'm not saying this is the right way or the wrong way. It's just that's what's worked for me. And then secondly is to go back to that, starting out with the prices as high as I can get. Like I almost never drop my price in hoping to get a job. I kind of keep my prices high, with the intent that when I do get a job, I lose a lot of quotes. I lose a lot of bids. I would much rather have a schedule full of $100, $200 an hour jobs versus $40 to $50 an hour jobs. Because then I can pay more, there's more revenue. And so keeping that price high, not being afraid to lose bids. I lose a lot of them. And in the carpet cleaning world, kind of the rule of thumb is if you're not losing 20 to 30% of your bids, your price is too low. If you're getting, I get 95% of the bids I put in, that means your price is too low. But you don't want to go 50% because then your price is too high. Anyway, but to keep those margins high, you have to start high first of all, and then mitigate your cost. So I make sure that my solution cost is right about 5%. When I start hitting 6 and 7%, it's too high. It's like, okay, we're using too much cleaning supplies. We're using fuel goes up in the wintertime because we use a lot more fuel when it's cold. Because it gets, I mean, here where I'm at, it's 40, 50 below. And it's regular that we're out cleaning 20 to 30 below.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stay in Mexico, man. I think I'm good. Yeah.
Now, conversely, I would rather work at 30 below than 80 above. Like, because I can't cool down, dude. I'm like just
wow.
dying.
Man, we're from a different breed, man. I don't know how you do it.
Oh yeah.
Like I've always I have a couple of friends that are in Canada, and I have a friend who's in Carlithia in the chat is saying it's too cold for her. Yeah, I'm with you, Carlithia.
Yeah.
But there's people that he's in Winnipeg and it gets negative 40, and I'm just
Yeah.
how do people live? What do you do when it's that cold? You can't even you have to really plan around going to the grocery store. And
Oh yeah.
I don't know, that's just my perspective, but I'm sure you have a lot of workarounds.
Well, and I'm completely opposite. Like, how do you go to the grocery store at 90 above? Like, I'm staying outside. There is in my basement where it's cool with the AC on. Like,
yeah,
I can't take any clothes off, bro. So,
geez, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I just wear a tank top and I just turn the AC on. That's pretty much it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So go back to the profit margin though is
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track.
No, it's all good. So to go back to the profit margins though, it's price as high as you can, and don't be afraid to lose bids. And just know that, okay, well, at 20 to 30% of losing my bids, it's kind of the sweet spot from what I've found personally and what's worked well in the industry. And then there are some concessions you'll make if a customer comes back and says, hey, can you tighten up on this bid for that? And if they ask me for something, I always ask them for something. If they say, oh, can you do it for cheaper? Well, I can, but that means that your staff is going to have to pre-vacuum for us then. Or we're not going to include spot treatment or spot treatment. Or for that portion of the service, your in-house cleaning crew can do it for $10 an hour where we're doing it for $50 an hour. So every time they ask us to make a concession, I always ask them to make a concession. And so it holds that gross, it holds that profit. And so we're providing less service at a lesser cost, but our profit margin is still the same.
Wow. Do you feel that if you're having them make a concession as well as yourself, if you're negotiating or working out the price, do you feel like if you didn't do that, do you feel like people would start to take advantage and they would keep asking to do more and more things on jobs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And I found that, I'll raise the price. Or one thing I'll do is I'll say, hey, look, here's the deal. If you want a price break, I always charge full price for the first cleaning, because essentially it's a restoration cleaning. We're getting it into the state that we can now maintain it. And therefore, once you get a full price clean up front, we know that you're serious about this. Then we can start giving you a break on whatever it is, once a month, every 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And they say only after the first full-time service, because it's going to take us a lot of effort to get it back into what's what I'm looking for, the clean state where we can then maintain it. And then what I find though, when we do that, our profit margins are even higher, even though the price is less, because it's way less work. The third and fourth and fifth cleaning.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I feel
So
like that, like even with like my kitchen, it's like if I don't get it to like that standard, it's almost like a standard. Like you don't
yep.
like if you don't have it at the standard, then you're just like re-cleaning. It's a lot more work than just trying to maintain it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm actually in my kitchen right now. That's why I came up with I'm like looking at the dishes right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if I don't keep up with it, if I don't keep it to the standard, because they actually don't have the dishwashers down here. So I have to like keep it to the standard, so it's like, otherwise it just gets like overwhelming. So it's like, sorry, I don't know if that's like a weird analogy there, but
no.
but yeah, it's like if you don't, it's just easier to maintain it, and plus like after the first time, it's like you did a lot more work, yes, but it's like you've done it. As long as you do a good job, it's like they're going to keep working with you, and cleaning is and something that's very like needed. And if you have that relationship and a good quality service, like I don't see why they would ever leave you unless there's like something personal or something that happens with the business or something like that. So yeah, I think that's amazing advice. And it's almost counterintuitive to raise your price when you're new. And I think that's one of the biggest mental barriers that a lot of people have, is especially if they're new to business and they don't understand how maybe value works completely. But it's really just creating value on your brand, because as soon as you devalue yourself, you're just going to attract people that are cheap and that are not going to value this type of service. Or your work, and you're just going to be treated poorly. And I've seen that happen so many times, and I hate seeing it happen.
Oh yeah.
But it's just like, I try to help people just in the future, like, how you handle the objections and how you come across, how you, show yourself. And I think it's great that even when you're a one-man show, like you even had like you had your shirt, like you had your shirt made to show that you're legit. You had your business card, things that people want to see when they do business with a professional service. So,
and one thing that I found too, and this again, this sounds counterintuitive. The more you charge, the cleaner the houses you're cleaning. Because if you're charging, I'm just gonna use this as a dollar amount. If you're a $10 an hour cleaner, you're gonna get people who are renting for $300 a month, and they can only afford a $30 cleaning. So you're going into this rat nasty place for $45 for 4 hours of work. You're making $10 an hour. Whereas there are lots of times where we go into a house and it doesn't even look like it needs cleaned, but they want it to maintain that level of cleanliness. So they're willing to pay top price for it, because they spent $8 and $10 a square foot for that carpet or whatever, or they got whatever the reason is. I found the higher I charge, the cleaner the houses I'm in. It seems really weird, but that's the way it works.
Yeah, they're probably, I'm guessing they're more well off, and they see the value in the good quality. And and I'm sure I'm guessing commercial maybe this is the same. I would assume. Like you do bigger properties
not quite as much, but they but on the flip side, you deal with more professional managers, people who pay on time. They see the value in not jerking you around. And so if you're dealing with like for instance, one of the like I said, the hotel where we did 15,000 in 2.5 days, like they do tons of revenue, like millions of revenue per week. So a couple grand in carpet cleaning is chump change. That's leftover money, because their business is also so profitable. Now you go downtown to the $45 an hour or $45 a night motel. They're gonna ask you to clean the rooms for $15 a room, and then they're gonna be just absolutely rat nasty disgusting. And so you're gonna be working your butt off again for $10 an hour. I want a McDonald's for $10 an hour. They got paid time off and 401k, and
hey, you're better off at McDonald's at that point. Yeah, it was hard. I think the other thing I heard a lot was, people didn't want to like decrease their prices, but they had to increase because of all this unemployment is ending right now. But when it was going on, like a lot of people, it seemed like they didn't want to scare off their current or future potential clients. by
Yep.
raising the price. But um, and I know earlier you said, yeah, you want to treat your employees well. Like, do you do anything else? Just curious. Like, do you do anything else to attract good employees and keep them motivated, keep them performing well?
Oh, here we go.
Am I going down a rabbit hole?
No, no, there's one of my tech here.
How's it
So
go?
no, he goes, I want to listen to this interview. And I said, all right, cool, whatever. I'm open. I'm
Yeah.
an open.
That's a nice view you got there. Wait, let me see that real
Oh,
quick.
dude, crazy.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you guys get any like crazy like bears or anything? Like, do you ever have to fight any off or?
We're ironically we're so far from the coast. There's more bears around the coast of Alaska. So for instance, like when I say far, I'm literally 400 miles from the coast.
Wow.
And so the bears got to walk a long way to get here. Now there are a lot of bears here, but they're further out in the woods. And honestly, lived here, born and raised my entire life. I did not ever actually see a bear until last year when we went down to the ocean to go fishing. So, but there's lots of moose. There's lots of moose. There is lots of wildlife, but nothing that's gonna come eat you.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of Alaska. It looks absolutely amazing. Like, I would love to check it out sometime. Like, it just looks like the nature is just so pure and like not. It doesn't seem like it's very built up. I mean, I guess unless you go to like Juneau
it's very concentrated where the population is. And so, for instance, like in Fairbanks, where I live, where there's about 100,000 people spread over probably, let's say a 20-mile radius. And then the next big city, literally, I'm not even exaggerating. Like there's a couple cities, there are a couple thousand people here and there, but the next big city is literally 300 miles south of us. And there's another 150,000 people in that area. And then Anchorage has about 300,000 in the total area. So the whole state of Alaska is like just over 1 million. And so, it's crazy up here. So there's like, we drive 10 minutes out of town and we're in the middle of nowhere for hundreds of miles of 4-wheeler trails and mountain bike trails. So.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Meanwhile,
I was like, meanwhile, I was in like Mexico City a couple months ago, and it's 21 million people, just the city alone. Like,
I could, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No, that's too much. Like the town I'm in right now, it's like 200,000. Like that's a good sweet spot for me. Like just between like maybe a couple 100,000 and 1 million. Like that's like perfect because it's like small enough where you like. Yeah, it's like small enough where you find like the same, like it's easy to meet people and you see people everywhere where it's like not annoying, but it's not like where it's just like so big where you just get overwhelmed. Yeah. Like New York or all this stuff, in my opinion. I mean, everyone's built different, but yeah, kind of going back to stuff. Yeah, we'll have to talk. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that after. But yeah, so employees, like, do you have any like recommendations for, being able to hire, retain, and ensure that they perform well? And all that.
Sure. So here's first things first. When it comes to hiring employees, people talk about, I can't find good employees. I'm having a hard time finding this person and that person. Well, first of all, you're an idiot. Okay. The reason you're finding idiots is because you're an idiot. And I'm being like completely brutally blunt here. Is like I talked to a friend of mine a couple months ago, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna start a mechanic business, and I'm gonna have 4 and 5 employees, and we're gonna make this much money, and I'm like, not to be rude or anything, but you're not fun to be around. Like you're not gonna make a good boss. Like, and I'm gonna sound super arrogant in this and conceited in saying this, but like, you got to be a people person. Like, and I'm not saying you have to be flamboyant and outgoing and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that go into that, but you also have to create an environment that has a lot of integrity, and people are willing to come work for you. So for instance, what does that look like to me is because the cleaning business isn't a 9 to 5. It's not like we don't open at 9 a.m. and close at 5 a.m. like a brick and mortar store. So one thing that I give my employees is I say, hey, look, like you let me know ahead of time what times you want to work and what times you need off, and I work around all that. We schedule jobs kind of within reason around their schedules. So one of my employees, he says, "Hey, I'm going to go. I need 2 days off in 3 weeks." Cool. I just schedule around it. Another thing is I try to make sure that now we're not going to like every single person we work with for the rest of our life, but there needs to be team unity and team cohesion, if you will. And so a lot of what I do is in my interview process is I bring people on for what I call a working interview. I bring them out to the job site for a whole day, sometimes even 2 days, to say, "Hey, look, do you like what we do?" So it's kind of a two-way interview. Do you like what we do? And do we like the way you work? And then it's a no commitment job interview. It's part of the interview process. And so then that way they get to come out and they say, whoa, I know you told me you clean toilets, but I'm not cleaning toilets, man. Well, that's not the right job for you then. And I use that literally as a figure of speech, but also literally. Like, I told you we're a cleaning business. You're gonna get dirty a little bit. There's gonna be jobs that stink, and so I try to find jobs that are not the worst, but are fairly typical of what we run into. And so I do that job working interview. So first of all, I get to spend a day with you, kind of in a relaxed environment. We get to chat about not personal stuff, but more of on a personal level than a formal interview. And at the end of the day, I say, "Cool, you worked 8 hours, and I pay $15 an hour for those. You worked 8 hours. Here's a $90 check. Have a good day. I'll catch up with you in the next couple of days and see where we're at." And by that time, you spent the whole day you've already done a formal interview, either on the phone or in person. So now you're doing a working interview with them, and so you really get to find out with the person what they're like. They get to find out what you're like, and that has helped me out a lot in my hiring process. And then what I'll do is for a final interview, I actually take them out to dinner with my wife and then their significant other, and I let their significant other ask a bunch of questions. And so then that way, they get to ask my wife, "What's it like to be a spouse of a carpet cleaner of a janitorial business when you're working late nights and there's long days and sometimes 3 or 4 days with no work, or sometimes 2 weeks of straight work." And so we get to be open and real with each other. And so when we give that final hiring offer, there's not much that we haven't talked about or hardly anything they haven't experienced in regards to the job description.
Got it. Yeah. It seems like, yeah, you're really good at just, not just the whole process, but especially just making sure that they're not like, they have a very good expectation of like
Yep.
what the job is, like who you are, making sure that's maybe a cultural and personal fit. And also just, just making sure that, hey, like, yeah, like this is, to be transparent, this is the job, but I'm going to help you through it. I'm not just going to, put you in the fire, so to speak,
Yep.
but I'm going to, show you and help you if you have any questions. Have you found like there's maybe like an avatar or a certain type of person that ends up being good for your company? Like maybe they came from a certain type of background or skill set that ended up, like, is there a lot of people in certain maybe types of other jobs, or were they from maybe other cleaning companies before, or who ended up really working out for you? If you had
I'll
to.
give you a specific answer on that
Got it.
because I've got one employee who's in the Guard. I've got one employee, so he's in the National Guard, so he takes some time off every now and then for that. I've got another employee who, she is 19 years old. She was a manager at Pizza Hut before this. I've got another gal who is she was the front desk clerk at one of the local gyms, making $10 an hour. And so I've had I actually haven't hired anybody that's from another cleaning business, and I'm opposed to that because I haven't had it happen. But I've always heard horror stories of people coming in from another cleaning businesses and saying, "Well, we didn't do it that way at that business." Well, that business is also out of business. That boss is in jail. Or why do you work there anymore? There's a reason you don't work there. We do it different. So I actually prefer to bring people on with a clean slate, and they have to be personable first. I'm not talking good salesmen. I'm talking they just have to be easy to talk to, because I'm sending these people out representing me and my company. Sometimes on military bases, sometimes on hotels, sometimes on very high profile customers. And they need to be able to think on their feet too, and I'll never throw a customer out or an employee out there to fail. Like, oh, go figure it out. But I also want them sometimes to be a little uncomfortable on their own, and be in situations where it's like, okay, well, if you're having a problem with that, give me a solution of what you would do, and then I'll see if that works. If you don't have an answer, I'm going to give you the answer. But I want you to try to think of something first. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just went to this business mastermind. Actually, I don't know if you can see this. So I have about 20, like 30 pieces of luggage in here
oh geez,
because yeah, they're all going skydiving right now. And I'm just
hot
holding
dang.
their luggage. So I literally like rushed over here to make sure, we're good with time. But yeah, one thing they talked about, and this is actually even something I'm doing with my team a lot more. And this is so important because if you ever want to be a business owner, if you ever want to be in a place where you can have everything continue to grow and run itself, it's really important that you empower your team to not just fit in and be a part of the culture, but also be able to be empowered to make their own decisions
Yeah.
and be able to solve problems. And as a business owner, what I used to do a lot is I would always say, like, if someone would ask a question, I'd be like, no, dude, like, yeah, like this is the answer. Like it'd be very like back and forth, like concrete,
Sure.
or, oh, hey, we need this done. Can you do this? Almost
Yeah.
like, but it's almost like it's like this conveyor belt of like things you have to do rather than what's I think a better leadership method. And this is what I've learned from other people is that they'll ask like, hey, like what pretty much just what you said, like, what do you think you should do? Like, what do you think
Yeah.
is the solution? And maybe you guys like talk about it, maybe it's not a final decision,
Yeah.
but if you ever want to have this, because as you continue to grow, like as you continue to grow your team, like you're not going to be able to answer every single question
Not at all.
and be in a million places at once. But it's really cool. Like, I don't know if you've had this with your team, but for us, like we have members of our team that like they just like jump in and help each other out. Like, hey, like let's get on a call. Like, I'm sure I could help you out with that. Like, let's work
Oh
on
yeah,
that together. Like, I think that's freaking awesome, and that kind of shows me like, oh yeah, I have like really good A players on my team.
for
Um,
sure.
and yeah, just like being able to do that. And no, thank you for hitting on those points. And I think it's just important to, yeah, and even find people that like it's another one of those things. It's like almost counterintuitive. It's like it's harder to, it's almost like a language. Like it's harder to like learn like later on. Like it's easier to just like it's harder to unlearn, like learn something wrong
Yeah.
and then unlearn it and then for you to reteach it than it is to just teach someone from the start.
Yep.
So yeah, like it's like cool they have cleaning experience, but I feel like I'm sure it only, like, how long does it usually take to train? Like probably like a month, right? Or a couple weeks maybe.
Well, on the
Or
janitorial side, um, it's pretty quick. I mean, I say a month, and you really get an idea what you're doing. On the carpet clean side, it's 6 to 9 months, and because a lot of that is on the
oh
job
wow.
training with me, like saying, hey, here's how you learn the certain steps, here's how you operate the van, here's how you do that. But then after about 6 to 9 months, I like to send the employees to a formal carpet cleaning class put on by a legit training program. And it's not just like, oh, some guy who thinks he's good at carpet cleaning. No, there's a program called the IICRC, which is like the ASE certification of mechanics, and they offer like 25 different cleaning certifications, and carpet cleaning is one of their most popular ones. And so it's a 2-day class talking about the chemistry behind carpet cleaning and methods of balancing pHs and pH scales and all that stuff. And so that way, like, we really know what we're doing, because when you get into like fine fabrics of like cotton and silk and wool rugs and furniture, it's a whole different game than just throwing another cleaning solution at it. And so there's on the job training with me and then we try to schedule a formal class time, and I pay them for the class, and it's a little bit of a trip because we're going down to Anchorage, which is about a 6-hour drive south of us. And so really set them up for success long term and really knowing what they're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's to be completely honest, like that is such a longer training process. Like I'm surprised like that you take that time, but I think I'm sure that helps with like the quality and just making sure that they're committed and making sure that, yeah, just the jobs that you do are good and you're able to retain those people. Because a lot of people that I talk to, it's like, yeah, like they do it for like a month.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
in
it.
the tutorial world, it's kind of, I mean, it's Windex and towels. How hard is it? I mean, it's carpet cleaning is a little more technical. But what that also provides me, though, someone who's trained and sticking around, and then that way, like they really know what they're doing, and I've got no problem paying someone $50,000 a year, even $75,000 a year over the next couple of years as they continue to train and grow. And so I want someone who's going to like have a livelihood working for me versus just a 3 or 4 month job and go on to the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I don't want to go too long here. So yeah, thank you for going into these different parts of your business. I know this was like one of the longer, I think, interviews, to be completely honest, but I think I think this was absolutely just value packed. So I think there were so many good points that you made. I don't know if you realize that you're making them, but there's so many little things. And the thing about this is like this whole game of entrepreneurship and starting your business, it's never these like crazy, like, oh, try this like magic potion and you're just suddenly going to become successful. It's these little like tiny, like minute little details, but compounded over time that you make and decisions you make and habits that you have on a daily basis. That's really going to ultimately allow you to grow. And you were able to do that and apply basically just a winning mindset, you know, from day one. And I think that's something like people need to realize is like, that's really just the first step. It's not getting equipment. It's not, you know, hiring, you know, 1 million people. It's really just within yourself and like, what are you prioritizing? So I think you hit on some really good things, man. And I'm so glad that you came on. Yeah, what I'll do real quick. So we actually have a couple people on this call. They were able to join.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, just wanted to see, you know, if anyone has absolutely any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your questions for Collun. He's more than happy to help you answer it. We'll do about 5-10 minutes just answering questions.
Put me on the spot now.
They're going to interview you, man.
All right.
Yeah, does anyone have anything or?
I have a question in reference to marketing. What type of marketing or do you have a specific budget that you have for marketing monthly or?
So great question. And I'm going to give this kind of superficially, not so much what I've done. I know in the cleaning world, a lot of guys say you consistently need to spend about 10% of your revenue on different marketing avenues. One thing that I've been very careful with is as a business owner, we get slammed and we get slammed all the time with all these different sales pitches. And I was straight up with Alex. I said, Alex is like, oh, can I do an interview with you? And I'm like, Alex, look, bro, okay. I'm going to poke your eyeballs out through Zoom if you give me some cheesy sales pitch at the end of this. Now, with that being said, Alex, I can appreciate a good sales pitch. Okay. So I did a podcast like this one time. The guy, about a 20-minute interview, and at the end he goes, oh, you seem like a good fit for our program. We offer so much Facebook marketing and all for you. And I'm like, got duped. I was so pissed. I was like, dude, you just wasted 20 minutes of my time for a sales pitch. And I'm like, and so that's why I was up front with Alex. I said, look, I can appreciate a good sales pitch, but be upfront about it. Okay. So anyway, so just be leery of people that are promising you this and promising you that, because some of the marketing costs can be $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. And that's okay when you're making $30,000, $50,000 a month. So what I've done though is I just try to use I went and bought a GoPro, and I take a lot of before and after pictures, a lot of before and after videos of stuff we're doing. And I'll take the time to learn how to edit something, not professionally by any means. But like if you go jump on my Facebook page, you'll see a bunch of videos, and some of them are just cut raw like this. Like I'll take a straight video of me walking around the house. Say, here's what we did. Here's our equipment set up. Give us a call. And so people like that stuff. It's super easy. It's free. And so that's kind of what I've done too. But the marketing, um, the work that you provide also speaks for itself. And so always just make sure that like you're not cutting corners and it's quality over quantity. And so you can't, no matter how good you are, people are going to find out the falsity in what you do if you're promising this and promising that and over promising. So
Right.
anyway,
one thing, yeah, I love what you said just there. And I think there's a lot of people like in this industry. And part of the reason, even for us, like part of the reason like we started doing like our kind of like our group coaching, and as well as like just providing a lot of like content and doing interviews like this, is because we realized like a lot of people are just trying to get the first couple of accounts. Like they're not really at that level where it's like for us to work with them, like, you know, do all these systems and, or even just, you know, have the sales skills, have the systems in place, or have the budget. There's a lot that it takes to get there. But I think a lot of people could, you know, I don't know if, you know, what your particular position is, but especially if you're just starting out and trying to get your first couple of contracts. I think what you said, just like pounding the pavement, making calls, you know, just really just putting out the work, but just making sure you're focusing on the right things, and really just showing whenever you do a good job, like a test, like this is the other thing, like if you get like a testimonial, like if anyone is happy with you right now as a customer, like get like literally just get for like, first of all, try to get a Google review, but what's even better is if you can get like a video of them, like you ask them some questions, like, and you could even do it if like maybe you're just catching up with a client over the phone or over like a Zoom call like this, you just record it real quick, be like, hey, you know, by the way, like what's been your experience working with us? And then you put that with onto like Facebook, you put that onto Google, all that kind of stuff. Cause like videos are like anyone can write like a, you know, a thing like a, you know, hey, they did a good job and stuff. But if you have like a video of someone like saying like we even do it for ourselves, like it's just so powerful, like, you know, talking to people and just seeing like them actually like be appreciative, you know, of what you're doing. So, and also Collun, you were working your network like crazy. Like you were posting stuff on Facebook and all that stuff. These are people that already like you and trust you. These are people that you've already known, you know what I mean? And like, you never know who they know.
Yeah. And
So,
one thing that I found too, that like to maintain the integrity of my business, to keep business and personal separate to some extent, I very rarely post business ads and stuff like that on my personal page, because it drives me nuts when all I see is my friends drinking these different shakes because, oh, I drank my shake today, or I'm wearing these pants today. Call me and you can buy them also. It's like, dude, I want to see friends. I want to see you and your family. I don't care about your pants or your shakes or the way your pants shake. I mean, anyway, so I'm very careful to make sure that like, yeah, every now and then, maybe literally less than once a month, I'll post something on my personal page about my business. But I don't want people to associate, because one thing that also does is one day when I can step away from the business is not built on Collun, but it's built on the culture and reputation of Premier Carpet Cleaners. And so Collun can step back and the business can continue to operate. So anyway.
Have you ever, Collun, real quick, have you ever made a post where you got a client or something from social media? Like when you do post maybe once a month, something like that. Have you ever, or is it usually people just hit you up on Messenger? Like, how does that usually happen for you with using social media?
I post a lot on my business page. I post regularly on my business page, but I don't post on my personal page about the business, just to clarify.
Got it.
Now I do get a lot of people that do message me on Facebook. It blows my mind actually that people will message me on Facebook. I'll give them a rough quote over Facebook Messenger. They'll give me a door code to their house while they're on vacation, and then I email an invoice to them and I've never met them. Blows my mind that like that happens.
That's crazy. Have you gotten hit up by any commercial ones by any chance?
Not a lot on Facebook. But I have cleaned, and you be careful in what you always do too. Like make sure you're always doing your best, because I've cleaned small 1-bedroom apartments for someone who was a visiting manager for a big corporation. and they're like, hey, I'm actually in town just kind of helping train my staff, but man, you did awesome. Do you do commercial work? Heck, freaking yeah. Hey, come give us a quote at the hotel or at the office or whatever. And so
Yeah, you never that's the thing about this game is like you never know who knows who.
yeah,
Like it's so important. Like, and that's like, you know, what you're saying before, like with relationships, like, because if you don't do a good job, like, okay, that's things happen, right? Like things, you know, don't always work out the right way. Employees quit, different things. But it's like, how do you handle that? How do you maintain that relationship? Would you work with them or not? Because you don't know, like if 5 years down the line, they know the corporate, you know, CEO of McDonald's. Or,
yeah,
you know, like I'm not even saying this is like, you think it's crazy when you're hearing it, but I've seen it happen so many times, like
yep.
where it's, yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, it did. Sorry, I was on mute.
All good,
Oh,
all good, no worries. Yeah, does anyone else have any questions?
not everybody at once now.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're all talking at the same time. I can't even hear myself think. Carly,
We went
did you
over
have anything or?
we went over a lot of content though.
Yeah, we did. Oh, go ahead. I think it's breaking up a little bit.
Losing you there.
It's longer. Can you hear me? The
Hey,
signal
I
is
think
terrible.
whoever's talking, are you able to type your question? Because it's, I think there's a bad connection here, I think,
All right,
in the
Sure.
chat maybe.
I'll type it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
Sure.
sorry about that. Or I don't know if that was you, Lango, or if that was or I think that was Carlithia, actually. I think you're, yeah, Lango. First of all, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. Second of all, I think you're fine. I think it was Carlithia that was having the issue. So yeah, if you want to go ahead.
While we're waiting on him to type, so have you ever had any payment issues with any of your customers?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I've completed a job and then I send the invoice right then and nothing, cricket.
So
So then they want you're coming back out.
how do you send the invoice?
Email, and the first time I send it to their email. The second time I send it, if it's a reminder email, I'll send it to their phone as well.
Okay. So I send it to both. The CRM that I use sends it to both right off the bat. One thing and I'm not saying you're not doing this, but one thing that I'm very clear up front is I say, hey, look, here's the deal. If it's a vacant unit and I've never met the customer before and we show up to do the job, if it's a vacant unit, meaning like they're gonna meet me, open the door, and then they're gonna leave and they're not gonna stick around. What I'll do is I just ask them, say, hey, look, here's the deal. For situations like this, I'm gonna give you the exact price right now. I'll email the invoice to you and we expect payment before we start. Another way too is if I have done business with them before, I will give them a well, it does, to be honest with you, it doesn't happen often. I think it's because of kind of building that. Again, I'm not saying this in a critical way, but now let me ask you this: how often is that happening, or is this like a one-time, once out of 100 invoices, or are you having it 1 out of every 10 invoices?
Maybe 1 out of 10, and it's only with the commercial client.
Okay. Now
And
with the commercial client, are the terms set in place specifically, meaning we
due upon
expect,
receipt,
what's that?
due on receipt.
Correct. Is it, are you very clear up front that I'm due within 24 hours? I'm due within 7 days. I'm due within 30 days.
Immediately after services are rendered.
Gotcha. And then a
Do you
lot of
accept
times,
credit cards? I accept credit cards over the, over the net. You can pay right there on the invoice. You can,
I would just
pay.
be upfront, like, hey man, if I gotta chase money, I'm gonna tack every 10 days. I'm tacking $20 on, or whatever it is. And be upfront. Be like, hey, look, here's the deal. We expect payment up front, or due upon receipt at the conclusion of the service. And then maybe on the invoice, put on there at end of 10 days or 15 days, if no payment is received, we're gonna put a late fee on there of X amount, because dang well for sure the electric company is doing that, phone companies.
Right.
Why are we any different?
I
The plumbing
appreciate that. Okay.
company is going to do that. We are a professional service. We came to your house and you saw me face to face. I need my money.
Or well, in my case, it only happens for commercial clients.
And you know what I would do is, if they did that to me twice, 2 times in a row, I would give them a price increase. If they didn't like the price increase, then they're gone. Let them fire themselves.
Right.
I'm not dealing with customers that aren't paying. Now, I do have one customer that takes almost 45 days to pay, but we charge them a ridiculous amount for how and I'm okay with them taking 45 days to pay, because
Right.
we do about $5,000 in revenue with them in 2 days every 6 months.
Okay.
I can wait 45 days
Right.
for $5,000.
Right.
So, but when you're chasing a $200 invoice or $500 invoice, and they're consistently doing it, they get, the second time they do that to me, they're gone. I need different customers.
Right.
And instead of walking in there and saying, look, you didn't pay, I'm firing you, then you're not going to get paid. Give them a late fee, send them the invoice, and then the third time you go back there, or whatever increment you go back, I would say, hey, look, we've had an annual increase of 15%, make it high, 15, 20%. And because gas prices have gone up 50%, 100% in the last year, why can't our prices? And so let the price increase be the reason they leave, instead of you firing them, because
Right.
they might, you know what? All right, cool. Let's do this. And you say, all right, because of that, and it gives you some negotiation there. And so just make it uncomfortable for them for not paying.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have a way of doing this, but if it's a recurring client, try to set up auto pay, because every time you have to ask someone for payment, even if you're doing a good job, they're going to try to find excuses to not pay, or it's just chasing them down. And it's just, I mean, it's also your time is worth something. So just, setting that up is really, really important. Another thing that I hear a lot is with cash flow, it can be a struggle with paying employees and all these other things. One thing you could do is, this is actually our coach who helps, our partners. So he always recommends seeing if you can talk to, especially the bigger contracts, if you have a bunch, or if not, just like all of them, and seeing if you can do like net 15. Whether or not you want to incentivize that in some way, you can, depending on your business. But that could be something that could really, really help if you have trouble with getting payments on time, or just maybe for your cash flow with your expenses. Maybe it all just doesn't come on the same date, or it does come on the same date and it's just difficult, just depending on your situation. So,
or here's another idea too, that I haven't done myself, but I've other carpet cleaners in the industry have done it. Is, let's say you go back that second time, you're having trouble getting payment from them. When you go to them the third time, say, look, here's the deal. Okay, I'm just being upfront with you. I'm giving you 2 options. Okay, we have to increase our price by 20%. Okay, if you don't like it, then I mean, you don't want to be rude about it, but just say, hey,
Right. Right.
been a price increase, and we appreciate your loyalty, and just assume they're going to stay with you. And they might say, oh, we're going somewhere else. Cool. You know what?
Right.
Awesome. Or if they insist, hey, no, we need your service. All right, here's the deal. Okay, I'll keep the price the same, but I expect prepayment before we do that. I'm not even talking half up front.
Right.
I'm talking all of it up
All of
front,
it.
all of it up front because you know the quality of the service that we provide. And so anyway, prepayment, baby.
I just thought of an idea, Colin. I don't know if you've ever thought of this or heard of this. What if you like split the risk maybe in the beginning somehow? So like maybe they pay it half up front and then half when the job is complete, maybe something.
A lot of, especially
Okay.
on big, a lot of guys do that.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. So I haven't done it because our prices are so high, we get clients that are they pay their bills. And I don't say this in any critical way, I don't say this in any critical way, but yeah, some guys will do that. But I've also heard of guys losing jobs because of that. Like, look, man, I can't prepay. I can't give you half up front. I can only pay you on the full invoice when we're done. And so anyway, that's where we say, cool. All right, well, my price just increased then because you're net 30. So you just went up 10%.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's kind of that mentality of like, hey, like if you're giving up something, they have to give something up, even if it's small. But it's just kind of, I think, having that type of relationship it's going to make them respect you, and not take advantage. I think it's just having that barrier is good. Not barrier, but kind of having that line drawn. Yeah. So does anyone else have any questions? I think someone was asking in the chat. I was kind of giving a little bit my input. I'll kind of read it right here. Langa was saying he has 2 teams of 2 ladies. So I'm assuming that's 4 people where you said that. I'd like to scale up as I don't see growth with the teams. I need to scale to 4 teams and open an office. Would you advise opening up an office as part of scaling up, or should I continue using my home? The reason being is I don't want to have employees going in and out of my house every day. So yeah, I have a feeling what you would say, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
So here's two thoughts to that question. One reason why I rent a shop is to keep employees away from my home. So hope that answers your question. Okay. Now, with that being said, I also will not keep employees around if I couldn't trust them to stop by my house for something real quick. If I don't feel comfortable with them knowing where I live, they're not the right employee. They're gone. See ya. Sayonara. But there's really no reason. And in the long term too, as I step back from and I'm talking 10 years from now, in the future, when I'm able to step back from the business a little bit, and I've got an operations manager and I'm not in the day-to-day trenches myself every single day, employees don't need to, don't mix personal life and business. So if you can afford a small shop, like find the smallest little office that you can. You don't need to go get a $2,000 a month shop. I literally, like I said, with as much revenue as we're doing, my shop cost me $750 a month. Sorry, $700 a month. And so it's a very, very small portion of my revenue. And it's a dump. It's a crappy little garage that I rent I rent 1 stall out of 4 bays. And one day I'll have a place where I've got 4 and 5 bays of my own and a nice office. And but the revenue's not there right now. So literally, if you can rent a $200 an hour or $200 a month or $500 a month office, having the business away from the house is important because it keeps the employees away. And when you leave the house to go to work, you're going to work. Like when I told you when I first started my business, when I was working on my equipment and trying to do stuff for the business of the business in the downstairs basement of my house, my kids are bugging me. My wife's bugging me. I didn't get anything done. And so when I rented the shop and I say, hey, look, I need to go work on equipment, I'm at work. I'm away from the house. And so it gives you that physical separation from personal and business life.
I think that's very important.
Say it again.
Happy.
Good.
I'm happy.
Awesome.
I'll be going around looking for offices tomorrow.
Awesome. And I'm saying, like, it doesn't
now, like now I have to convert the dollars. You're saying $700. I have to convert that to rands.
Oh,
just to get
gotcha.
an idea.
Oh
Got it.
yeah, because you're in South Africa, I think, right? Lango?
Yes, yes.
Got it.
And they're
Yeah, I don't
saying
know what
when,
that conversion
when
is, to be honest. But just
Yeah, yeah.
I think he's just trying to say, like, you don't have to get the, yeah, he's basically just saying you don't have to get the most expensive thing, just whatever's gonna get the job done, and yeah,
I have
separate
to
yourself.
multiply that. I have to multiply that by 20 to get an idea.
Got it.
So,
Mm.
so for example, here's for example, and again, I don't know the conversion to dollars to rands or pesos or tokens or.
We have to translate it
What-
3
what-
ways here. with this,
So
with
what
this.
So what I'm saying, like, if you can find an office that's less than 10% or even 5% of your revenue. So if you're again, I don't know what a rent is, but if you're doing
That's fine.
10,000 rent a month, find somewhere that's 500 rent a month or less than 1,000 rent a month. I mean, less than 10 or 5 to 10% of your revenue, because you don't want that office. You don't want that office to break you. You want it to be a help to you. There's no reason to go buy rent somewhere super flashy, because for me, customers don't come to my office, just the employees. And so anyway, so just keep that.
Don't have to impress anyone.
Yep. Impress them at their location. You don't need to have a fancy office because they're not coming to you.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've never gotten that question before. That's a really good question.
And it's an important part of the business too, keeping business and family, keeping business and personal life separate geographically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it might be even mental, because it's like, oh, if you have it like in the house, like you want to like mentally take a break from the business. When you're working as hard as you do, especially in cleaning, it's like you're working nonstop. So it's like being able to take a mental break, with your, and in the case if you have like family and all that, like, yeah, I can see that being a problem. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has any questions here, but does anyone else have any questions? We pretty much covered everything here. Yeah, so Collun, thank you. I know, like I said, I know this is like a longer interview, but I just really genuinely enjoyed talking to you, and I would love to keep in touch with you. Keep me updated. I promise I won't pitch you.
and like I said, I can appreciate a pitch. Maybe you have a service that I need, but I'm just saying, like, I don't like being duped. I don't like being like,
yeah, it's it's crazy because there's a lot of, like, especially in like this space, there's a lot of people that it's the same. Well, it's almost the same thing as cleaning. Like, a lot of people don't know, like, they're just starting to do it, but they make like false promises that they can't keep, and there's a lot of people just saying, oh, like, we can do all these things. And I would just say, like, for any of you guys, like, if you're ever looking for someone to really be able to help you out, it's either going to take you time. So for example, if you want to learn how to do Google ads or like SEO and just make yourself seen better on Google, you could either take the time and learn it by yourself. And then if you do want to find someone who's good at it, and kind of go along the the paying money route, to kind of save more time, I would definitely look for like referrals or like reviews and people that kind of have those things, because for as many like people that I know that are really good at SEO, like I have a couple of friends, like I know there's like an equal, if not like much higher amount of people that are just like charging money and not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, it's, and I understand like that perspective, because I see it all the time. Like, even when I was trying to learn like how to grow, like I bought like scammy courses that didn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? I've even been scammed in many ways as well. So yeah, just be careful about what you do. But I think as long as you're investing in yourself and skills and knowledge, and you're moving yourself forward, I think that's really the best decision. You know? So but yeah, I would love to keep in touch with you, man. Like, thank you so much for doing this. Huge value. I'll send you the YouTube video link. If you guys want, check out my profile. I'll probably post it out in either today or tomorrow. I got to see what I'm doing with all this luggage here. So kind of running around a little bit, but yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, see ya.